Noor from Somalia.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Mr. Sadiq Noor, how are you?
Fine, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
My question...
How is your country, Somalia, these days?
There is no government, sir. We are trying to fight each other out, to solve our problems.
The only government there could be, you shoved it out of your country. That was American government. Having frustrated their attempt to become the government of Somalia, now you're left without a government. Yeah. Unfortunate.
My question relates to a hadith, which if you will allow me, I will read it.
Do please.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said in the following authentic narrations, which was narrated by An-Nawas bin Sama.
Yes, I know.
Allah will
You're talking about Dajjal?
No, I am talking about the descending of Isa bin Maryam in the white minaret in Damascus.
That is, yes, of course.
Yes, sir. Allah will send the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary. He will descend close to the white minaret to the east of Damascus.
That's right.
He will be wearing 2 blackened long dresses. His hands will be placed on the wings of 2 angels.
Right.
Whenever he lowers his head, drops of water will fall down. Whenever he raises his head, drops of moisture that look like pearls will fall down. No disbeliever can survive his breath, and so on. This hadith was narrated by as I said, Nawas bin Salman, and it can be easily be found in Shahr al-Nawawi al-Alamas Sahih al-Muslim, volume 18, page 63 to 70.
Correct.
So my question is, if this is the hadith, then how come we are saying that Mizar Ghulam, of
Mizar
whom...
Ghulam Ahmad al-Qadian,
yes, sir,
was the same Messiah.
Yeah, you say he comes from Qadian.
That's right.
Then he is contradicting this hadith. Thank you, sir.
Of course. Please wait here and I'll explain that, everything. First of all, let us understand this hadith and learn the message from this. Obviously, you are taking it to be a literal message for the future. Right?
Yes, sir.
There is no metaphor involved.
There is no metaphor in this.
Right. So, do you really believe that at this age, when the entire universe has been mapped by scientists, and where the distances involved between one place and another are mind-boggling? In 1 second, the light travels at the speed of 186,000 miles per second. And the nearest galaxy to us is more than 1 million years of light away. In this galaxy, the distances again are measured in light years, no shorter than that. So can you imagine really that Hazrat Isa could have risen to heaven bodily, awaited there his return, and when he returns descending with his hands propped on the shoulders of 2 angels who are flying with their wings? How long will it take them to reach from the nearest star, wherever it is, to the earth? You see, they cannot move with the speed of light, because this is the law of nature, law created by God, not by any other person. That no thing, no earthly thing, no material thing, whether earthly or heavenly, can move with the speed of light. So, how many million years it would require Jesus Christ, after starting his journey downward to the earth, traveling on the wings of light to reach here? When you think deeper, you come to realize that Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could not have talked against the nature of God in which he created and which he knew better than anybody else in his time. It's impossible. We must read the meanings behind these statements. But apart from that, leaving science apart, I draw your attention to the fact that the Holy Quran categorically declares Jesus to be dead. Now, if the Holy Quran says he's dead, and one hadith says, whether it is from Bukhari or any other hadith, that no, he went to the heaven, and when no other hadith of Muhammad Rasulullah supports this by saying that Jesus never died, but he was lifted to the heaven. There is no such hadith. And there is only descent mentioned. And how would you compromise these three triangular differences? On the one hand, there is Quran, which categorically declares Jesus to be dead, which categorically declares that all prophets before Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam have passed away. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ma Muhammadun illa Rasul. Qad khalat min qablihi Rasul. Being a Somalian, I know you understand Arabic. So what do you read there? Was Jesus a prophet before Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah or not? Was this ayat false? Can you imagine for a second that the Holy Quran was making a false statement? Because when read against someone's hadith, it doesn't mean sense. The Holy Quran must be right. Nothing can be pitched against the Holy Quran and its authenticity and its validity and its supreme authority. So when the Holy Quran positively declares Hazrat Isa alayhi salam to be dead, when the Holy Quran never mentions his ascent to heavens bodily anywhere in the Quran, when Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah declares that he will descend, how would you compromise these two things? The only way to compromise is the way that Jamaat Ahmadiyya, under instruction from Hazrat Mirza Sahib, who was instructed by God as he claimed, have resolved the issue for us reasonably, logically, without there being any contradiction between Hadith and the Quran. He pointed out that whenever the word nuzul is used in relation to anyone living person, it is always a spiritual descent from God, indicating that he is the source. And of all the prophets, the only one prophet who is mentioned in the Holy Quran under the word nuzul is Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Zikr Rasulullah wali ayat nikala. Read the Quran as many times as you like, but you will never find the word nuzul spoken in relation to any prophet of God except Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how would you understand this? When Hadith says Isa, talks of Isa's nuzul, you say it has to be a physical bodily nuzul. When the Quran says about the nuzul of a much higher prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, you begin to interpret it and say, no, he couldn't have descended from heavens. So the word nuzul is the key to the whole understanding. The word, the declaration of death of Jesus Christ, not upon cross, afterwards, after he had migrated, after he had delivered his message to the remaining 10 tribes of Israelites. We believe that he died a natural death like all of the prophets did. Otherwise, the verse, Ma Muhammadun illa Rasul, qad khalat min qablihi Rasul would mean nothing. So it is in context, in relation to all these various aspects of the issue, that we have to believe that Jesus Christ was never lifted bodily, but when it is said that he would descend, it was not meant a bodily descent, but exactly in the same sense as it is used again about Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallam and his nuzul. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قد أنزل الله إليكم ذكرا رسولا يتلو عليكم آيات الله مبينات ليخرج الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات من الظلمات إلى النور. قد أنزل الله إليكم. To you God had made descend whom zikran, a personified remembrance of Allah, Rasulan, a prophet of Allah. So this word nuzul is never used in the Quran about Jesus Christ. So if you have to believe that someone did descend bodily from heaven, because the word nuzul is used, Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah has a prior right. Because it's not hadith I'm quoting, it's the Quran. And Allah knows best the meaning of nuzul. So this should be the issue which should clinch, this is a verse which should clinch the issue. But apart from that, I will also draw your attention to the fact that that hadith is quoted differently, and other ahadith also speak light on that hadith. From other ahadith on the issue, we gather that the minaret on which Hazrat Isa alayhi salam would be deposited will have no staircase. Right? You have heard it. When the ulama hear of some strange happening, some prophet of Allah having been deposited on the top of a minaret, then they would run with their staircases and put it against the minaret, and Jesus then will be able to descend. Now, what a strange thing it would be. A man, it is said, well, I forget for the timing that, but what I'm saying is, a man descends from the fourth heaven, which has to be at least 1 billion light years away from us, without any damage done to him, and the angels who bring to him hundreds of thousands of times faster than the speed of light, they deposit him on the minaret and forget about him and just return to the heavens. And he is awaiting ulama to come to his aid and bring him from minaret to the ground. And that would happen in Syria, right? And when this hadith was quoted, there was no such minaret in Syria, east of Damascus, and to my inquiries, there is no such minaret even today. A white minaret without staircases, which is found in the east of Damascus. So, will you write it off altogether? If you give this emphasis and stress, lay such emphasis and stress on this tradition, then you should write off the coming back of Jesus Christ, because it has to be taken literally, and literally there is no such minaret which exists east of Damascus. And what is sort of, melodrama that would be? A prophet of Allah whom we are waiting for 2,000 years returns dangling in the open, putting his hand on two angels, and who drop them on the minaret, and this just disappear from there. And the ulama receiving him back, bringing him down to earth. And what would be his faith? Will he be a Hanafi or a Shiite or Barelvi or a Wahhabi? If he declares that the Shiite government of Syria is just a usurper government and their faith about Islam is totally false, then there and then poor man who escaped the gallows of the Jews would be beheaded. So he would return to his execution. If he declares they are all right, Shiites are all right, and the rest of the Sunni world is absolutely false, then he would be turned into a hero in Syria, but unfortunately he would not be permitted entry into any Muslim countries of the world, except Iran maybe. So all this Has it happened ever before in the world? Does the Holy Quran speak of any such events in the past? Does it not repeatedly emphasize that Judge Muhammad Rasulullah from the Sunnah of all the prophets before him, you will not find any deviation? That Sunnah of Prophet is so repeatedly mentioned and emphasized that if anybody stood up and said, this did not happen in case of Muhammad Rasulullah, because it happened in case of Muhammad Rasulullah, but it did not happen in the previous history of the prophets, then according to the Quran, he would prove to be false. What sort of new traditions will be created by Jesus Christ that we never heard of in the entire history of religion? What we heard of was completely different. What we heard of and which is authentic only supports the understanding of this tradition and the verses of the Quran. What we heard of was that Elijah was also predicted in the Old Testament to descend before the advent of Christ, coming from the heaven, sitting on his chariot. Until he would come, Christ would not appear before him. Christ would only appear after he had come. This was the import of the prophecy. It was taken so seriously and literally by the Jews of the time as the so-called prophecy of Jesus' bodily descent from heaven is taken by the Muslims of the world today. The similarity is very close and very threatening. Now what happened? Jesus came. No Elijah descended. Not bodily. While the words used were definitely more strongly suggested of a bodily descent than the words used in this hadith. And it was scripture, God's word quoted by the Jews. Not a hadith, not apocrypha, but actually the scriptures of the Bible. When this was pointed out to Jesus Christ, all right, you believe in the Old Testament, you say you have not come to change a jot. What about this? Where is Elijah? You know his answer? He said, John the Baptist, son of Zechariah. He is the Elijah who was to descend from heaven. Believe it or not. Now whose version will you accept now? Were the Jews right and Jesus wrong? Now be open-hearted and honest about it. You be the judge instead of making me the judge. If you decide in favor of Jesus and against the Jewish ulama, what right have you got to decide against Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian in favor of the ulama of today, because the issue is exactly the same. Once the Supreme Court issues a verdict, then it is not for the smaller courts to go against the verdict. And this verdict about bodily descent is given by no person other than Jesus himself, whose descent is being debated. He understood the scriptures to be metaphorical and not literal. Think over it. Thank you.